Good evening, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. Welcome into Live Weather Impact. It is now Tuesday. It's May the 5th, Cinco de Mayo, for everybody out there getting their margaritas and tacos going right now. We have a gorgeous evening ahead, but we're talking about rain. The first time in months we could end up with some of the heaviest rainfall in the area since mid-March, maybe even mid-February, depending on where you are in our area. That's how much rain is coming in. And for the first time in a long time, you're going to hear me say something I don't often say. We're looking forward to an increase in humidity because that's going to allow for the chance of some showers and thunderstorms tomorrow night into early Thursday. Front moves through. We're going to clear things out pretty quickly on Friday. Kind of a backdoor cold front come in that's going to cool us off, especially by Friday morning. We could see some mid to upper 40s. Now, high clouds moving in right now ahead of our storm system. It's a slow-moving front, and it's going to take its time getting in here. So waves of showers and thunderstorms will be rolling in. Tonight, not as cool as the last couple of nights when we had 30s, 40s, and 50s. We'll barely get down in the low 60s tonight. And again, a few showers you could wake up to tomorrow. I'll show you those in a minute. But the bigger rain chances are late tomorrow. We'll start this at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll see the rain chances begin to ramp up after then, and especially into tomorrow night. I think we actually could end up with some heavy downpours. And to me, the best part of this is overnight rain. It's the best kind of rain you want in a drought because it's going to soak in better. It's also going to be out of the way of the morning commute, hopefully, and the evening commute. So rain at night's always a nice thing. A look at we call this precipitable water, but for our sake of argument here, this is atmospheric moisture. This has been something we have not seen all spring and why we've been in a drought. We've got the Gulf open now. We're starting to see an influx of pretty deep moisture. We've had cold fronts, but no moisture. We've had moisture and no cold fronts. So for the first time this spring, we're getting the combination of both, and that's why we have several opportunities. In fact, some pretty deep moisture coming in. You see those kind of tropical look to that. That would be the area where we're going to watch for some heavier downpours. And even in a drought, we can get some flash flooding because that rainfall is quick enough. You're going to see it run off, especially some of this hard, crusty soil. Now, there's a low-end severe weather risk. We'll see these storms develop to the west tomorrow. They're going to be weakening as they move in, but they could have enough momentum that they're going to produce some gusty winds as they come in. So don't be surprised if there's some strong winds. And then the backdoor front, which is going to be kind of moving in from the north to south, and I'll show you that in a minute, could produce some strong storms Thursday evening. The main impacts, damaging straight line winds, maybe some small hail. Can't totally rule out a tornado risk, though it's not a really good setup for tornadoes, which is a good thing. And flooding, yes, even a small flood risk. Now, this is what we call the excessive rainfall outlook. When you see that green, that's a 5% chance of flash flooding within 25 miles of any point on the map. The yellow is a 15% chance. So you get the idea. The first time in a long time, we're actually talking about maybe excessive rainfall, and then that shifts to the south on Thursday. So we'll show you our short-range futurecast. We'll throw the temperatures on there because this will be kind of key to what happens on Friday. You see tomorrow during the mid-morning hours, there could be a few showers. That's going to be tough. That's going to be running in some pretty dry air, so don't expect a ton with that band. I think it's the afternoon batch because we get some heating of the day, probably some pretty good humidity building, and some showers and storms rolling through the evening. Some of those look pretty strong. We actually could see some gusty winds. And then overnight, this is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of rain you love. Mid-60s, middle of the night, 3, 4 in the morning. Great night to sleep. It's going to be pouring rain at times. Wake up to rain on Thursday morning, and then it moves out. But watch this backdoor front coming in from Virginia. You see another band of storms trying to develop along that front. And then look at these temperatures behind this going into Friday morning. We'll be in the 40s when we wake up on Friday morning. So pretty cold air mass, at least briefly, before we start to see a warm up going into the weekend. So a lot of activities going on this week coming up. We're going to talk about Navy Week here in town, but the Truist Championship going on out at Quail Hollow. Highest chance of rain is going to be on Thursday morning, and most of that should be in and out. I could see a delay, but they're still going to golf as long as there's no lightning. By Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll have to watch for pop-up storms, especially Mother's Day with a lightning risk. Now, there's more rain coming early next week, and so for the first time in a long time, our 7-day rainfall forecast for the southeast, we're showing at least an inch, inch and a half of rain, and that would be by far the most rain we've seen in Charlotte since, I said, basically mid-March, maybe mid-February, depending on the location. It's been 2 months since we've seen a half an inch of rain. It's been 3 months since we've seen an inch of rain. So it's been a while. So this weekend, great weather for the weekend. Temperatures around 80 on Saturday, 79 for Mother's Day. Just a small chance of an isolated shower or thunderstorm. The only concern for Sunday is not how little the rain chance is lightning, especially out at Quail Hollow for the 4th round of the Truist Championship. So we'll have to watch the lightning risk out there on the course. They're not going to mess around. The PGA is going to clear that course pretty quickly. Remember the rule, within 10 miles of the course, got to wait 30 minutes, and they're going to send you back to the buses and get you in those cars because there's no shelter out on the course. Here's a look at your Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Also got Charlotte FC home match this weekend. We'll keep an eye on those rain chances, though I'm not really concerned about that on Saturday. You see the cooler temperatures for Friday, and then we'll show you the 10-day forecast. Going into next week, pretty good chance of storms on Monday. That would be some beneficial rain as well, and then drying out for the rest of the week and heating back up. By the end of next week, we could see those temperatures soaring back into the mid and the upper 80s. So the good news, some rain on the way. The bad news could impact some outdoor activities and maybe the morning commute on Thursday. But all in all, this is a rare time where I'll tell you it's a positive impact to see some heavy rain rolling into the region. So stick around. Coming up after the break, we've got some guests in studio today. We're going to talk Navy meteorology coming up here in a couple of minutes. Tim Buckley will join me from WFMY up in Greensboro. So stick around. We'll be back in about 2 minutes and 30 seconds right here on Live Weather Impact.
Weather Impact Live with Brad Panovich is sponsored by Moisture Lock, crawl space, basement, and foundation repair experts serving the Carolinas since 1988.
Tired of all this rain? Does your yard look like a swamp after it rains? Hi, I'm Greg Doggett with Moisture Lock, Charlotte's premier waterproofing and foundation repair company. The longer water sits, the softer soil will become. This can cause foundation issues. If you're having drainage issues, contact Moisture Lock. We'll get the water away from your home and out of your yard.
Moisture Lock, stabilize, enhance, protect.
welcome back in. We have 4 guests in studio today. Tim Buckley up in Greensboro, so we got a full house here tonight. And great topic. We're going to talk about Navy Week here in Charlotte. We've got 4 meteorologists in here to talk about meteorology and the week ahead. They're all from the Navy Meteorology, let me get this right, Oceanographic Command. Is that correct? METOC? Is that... we love acronyms, so we'll just go with METOC. But welcome them. Let's introduce from left to right. You guys introduce yourself, where you're from, so our audience knows who we're talking to.
Okay, good evening, Brad. My name is Petty Officer 3rd Class Luke. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm great. So happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
I am Air Grapher Meg, 2nd Class Petty Officer Greer. I'm from near Columbus, Georgia. Also.
I'm Chief Allen from San Antonio, Texas. Happy to be here.
Thanks.
Lieutenant Junior Grade Michael Weigel. I'm originally from Portage, Indiana.
All right, great. Thank you guys for coming in. So I'm going to ask the first question. Tim's going to ask the next one. I got to ask probably a question a lot of people have. You know, a lot of folks see us as a forward-facing meteorologists on broadcast TV, but you guys have really important jobs. Talk a little bit about what is the job that you guys have as meteorologists in the Navy.
For us, for meteorologists in the Navy, we do a whole bunch of different activities because it's like, you know, weather is an omnipresent factor. You know, it can affect anything from our ships to our ground-based operations to our undersea operations with subs. So that's where the oceanography starts to come into play. So being able to have a team behind any operation we do to assist in any issue coming up or just help with the planning phase is just great benefit to have that assistance on the back end for the Navy, and that's just kind of what we do, whether that's here at Fleet Weather Center Norfolk, up in Norfolk, Virginia. We have another command that does the same thing, but for like the Pacific and the entire other half of the world over in San Diego. We just kind of help, you know, do weather on the back end for the fleet all over the world.
Sounds like a lot of work. Tim, I'll let you ask the next one.
Yeah, it does sound like a lot of work. And thanks, guys, for being here and to educate us a little bit more on what your jobs are like in the Navy. I'm curious, so as TV meteorologists, we're usually getting people either ready for their day or talking about localized severe weather, how it's going to impact them in their daily lives. How are you getting missions prepared, like, you know, a tactical point of view here? How do you assess whether or not a mission should be a go or a no-go when it comes to the Navy?
I can speak in that a little bit. So we've got teams from a lot of different commands that'll work with other parts in the Navy all across. So we've got people that work with SEAL teams, people that work with ships, people that work with air stations. So a lot about what we do is creating those products that do give them that informed go or no-go criteria in order to let them know whether or not what they're doing is actually going to be supported by the weather that we're seeing.
Yeah, seems like a really important job. So one of the things, and you guys probably can understand this as much as we do, is like Tim and I, you know, we're always looking for tons of data, right? Like to make a good forecast, we need a ton of data. You guys are forecasting sometimes for open ocean, where there's just big data voids, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you guys get past, like, and how do you fill the gaps of these data voids? Because there's not radars, and except for on the ship, you don't have NEXRADs all over the ocean. You don't have a ton of surface data or even upper air data. How do you supplement those voids in the data?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. I've probably been out to sea the most on this table here, but yeah, I mean, you make a good point. Very data sparse out in the ocean. Yeah. However, we do have a lot of just ships in general, whether it be Navy or merchant vessels, that actually do submit weather observations. So all that real-time data does get ingested into the models. Yeah. So you'd be surprised on how well some of the models will handle out in the open ocean. Sure. And if the model's not handling well, you know, then we'll make sure we're relying more on satellite and historical data and stuff like that. So that's kind of the way we kind of combat data sparse areas.
I think one of the kind of key parts to add to that is when we write forecasts, say for ships, usually what they'll do is they'll send back a report and say, at this time, this is what the weather is. They'll take those observations. Yeah. And so even though their data informs the models, we can also use that when we write the forecast to say, all right, the models are saying waves are going to be 4 to 6 feet. They're only seeing 3 or 2. Yeah. So we can use that and be able to kind of use that judgment
to be able to write them. Some of the guidance. That's great. Yeah.
Okay, so technology is always changing, right? We've seen it in our careers. You've seen it in your careers. I'm kind of curious. Where is this going? You know, as technological advancements keep on piling on, we're seeing maybe AI models starting to do some new exciting things when it comes to hurricane forecasting. Maybe drones are out there to help you guys get observations. What are the differences that you're seeing now compared to years past that are helping the weather observations in the Navy?
I'd love to speak on that, but I've only been in for a year.
Yeah, no,
I'm not really qualified to speak on that one.
Yeah, so I guess, I've been in the longest here. So when I came in, AI was not a thing.
Yeah.
And I would say as Naval Meteorology and Oceanography, I think we're still trying to figure out how AI comes into play.
Yeah.
I know where we work at Fleet Weather Center Norfolk, we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg about how we implement it. Right now, we've been using it to kind of make our job easier and find shortcuts to conserve time, man hours and stuff like that. Just producing a simple forecast, whether it be a forecast for a submarine or a forecast for a naval pilot, we've been using AI more and more to kind of automate that process.
Sure.
So as far as what I can speak on my experience, that's kind of how I've seen AI kind of coming into play.
Yeah.
I know for some other aspects, there's been a lot more research into like unmanned drones to kind of help fill the gaps for the weather observations for some of the areas that ships don't really go to. Because like we currently have, a lot of buoys with National Data Buoy Center.
Yeah.
So that can kind of help supplement a lot of the shore-based, areas. But for a lot of the open ocean, we're starting to get a lot more, there's a lot more companies producing unmanned vehicles, little unmanned drones to kind of help glide through the water and send like real-time forecasts. So we're starting to use that. And it's been a big help to just be able to validate a lot of the information we have in open ocean.
Yeah, I feel like for upper air data, I think we still launch weather balloons. People are always shocked when we see the soundings, but it's like
still see it and you're like, wow.
Yeah, at some point you figure there's got to be some unmanned aerial system that we can use, and I know NOAA uses sail drones, which are really cool.
That's
They're
the thing I was talking about, the ones that kind of like glide through the water.
Yeah, those are amazing. One question I have that's interesting, you guys obviously collect a lot of data from the ships and aircraft, and you guys use it, but how much does that get publicly available to the numerical modeling? Like how much are you guys helping supplement the data that I can use for our forecasts, especially during like hurricane season?
Yeah. Well, a lot of websites, the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, stationed in Hawaii, even ourselves in San Diego. We do have front-facing pages.
Sure.
So a lot of those are publicly available. There's a lot of other sites that even we go to for the stuff that we do. So National Weather Service, Aviation Weather Center.
Yeah.
Those are all websites with some great information.
Tropical Tidbits.
Yeah, Tropical Tidbits, yeah. Oh, man. He does a great job.
Yeah,
That's like, if you're a tropical meteorologist, go ahead, Tim. You get the next question here.
Yeah, I guess I'm just personally curious. We see you have to deal with weather all around the globe, right? Different oceans, the Navy can go anywhere. What is some of the worst weather either that you've seen, or honestly, what is some of the worst weather that you're able to withstand with the different types of ships out there? What can they handle and what can't they handle?
Yes, I think we could probably just go down the line here. Maybe talk about
that one good story, right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
The worst weather I remember seeing was kind of the remnants, because I've only been in for a year, but it was the remnants of last hurricane season, kind of how the systems will go up, more towards the Arctic, and then off the coast of Greenland, and then I remember we were seeing seas building up to 40 feet, and I was like, I can't imagine being up there in the middle of that.
Yeah, when they become those North Atlantic storms, people don't realize how massive they get up there. And
it's consistently like 40 knot winds, like 30-foot seas. It's it's a lot. What about you, Gear?
Back in 2022, I was stationed on the USS Carl Vinson when we were heading back around like February, and pretty much in the morning time we experienced like a heavy amount of fog in the area, trying to get back in the area, and plus you got the California current with bringing in all that cold wind and everything.
That marine layer out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen my fair share of fog as well on the west side of Africa, but my story would probably be we had some water spouts. I was out underway off the east coast on the USS Gerald R. Ford, and we had 3 water spouts around the ship at one time. It was just a severe weather outbreak, and we were telling whoever was driving the ship at the time, hey, go this way, because there was a water spout.
Were they tornadic water spouts, or were they just like?
No, they were tornadic.
Oh,
wow. And it was lightning, rain that was coming sideways. It was intense. So I'll remember that for a long time.
Maybe this is a bit of a cop-out answer, but the ship I was on, the America, we had a METOC team on board. So whenever we saw some pretty serious stuff, because we'd be underway usually during typhoon season over in the Pacific, whenever we saw that, we would turn around.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Tim. You asked this one.
Well, that makes sense. I'm just curious. I think a lot of times, we might have a lot of kids that watch this show that are into the weather or up and coming meteorologists necessarily. I wonder if they know all of the different routes that they could take career-wise with meteorology, with the military being one of those. How did you all get into this field in the first place, or when did you know that you wanted to do that?
Great question.
I can go ahead and start that one. I've always been a big weather nerd. Starting off, I remember arguing back in elementary school with my teachers about just climate change in general. And whenever the time came, because it's like, I went and finished high school, I went and finished college and got my bachelor's in math. And then after that, it was kind of like a career of like, hey, what do I actually want to do? I wasn't entirely sure. So I knew I wanted to do something with the ocean, because I really do love the water, and I think it's just one of the most fascinating things in general. And so I saw this was a good opportunity. I knew the Navy was always something in my backlog. It's like, hey, do I want to do this? I think I've got the potential. I think I've got the physical ability. I think I've got the mental ability to handle it. And so, I joined and haven't looked back since.
So I joined because I was determined to make a better career out of life after working 4 years in civilian life.
Yeah.
But pretty much I've always been interested in weather, looking at the clouds and sky condition most of the time.
Yeah.
Real beautiful.
Yeah, I grew up a weather nerd as well.
It's my people, man.
Yeah.
You know it.
It's awesome to be able to talk to a fellow weather nerd.
Yeah.
But just being a weather nerd as a kid, and if kids are looking at wanting to get into meteorology and they want to go the military route, you can go in the enlisted route if you want, or the officer route like Lieutenant JG here. But if you're going the enlisted route, you're really more hands-on doing the actual forecasting. Whereas going the officer route, you're kind of overseeing and making sure everything is good to go, as well as kind of more an administrative role.
Yeah.
So,
Meteorology was actually introduced to me when I was first going through the recruiting process. So I didn't know much about it. The big thing that I knew is that it was one of the fields in the Navy that was very STEM focused.
Yeah.
So that the analysis and the analytics, that was something that definitely interested me.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about, because all branches of the military have some form of meteorology, but you guys have this oceanography part of it, which is a huge aspect, and I don't think a lot of folks understand how connected the ocean and the atmosphere are. Talk a little bit about the ocean side of this, and because you mentioned that was a big fascination for you, and how important that is. I think some of the guidance and some of the research that we've done, we see a lot of issues where the coupling of the atmosphere and the ocean, that's one of the most difficult things to model sometimes. So talk a little bit about the oceanography part of this, and how, if you're into that part of science, maybe that's another way to get into the Navy as well.
Yes. Unfortunately, at Fleet Weather Center Norfolk, we're definitely a lot more involved in the meteorology aspect, but we have a lot of commands that get super involved with, as Chief was talking about earlier, anti-submarine warfare. A lot of stuff like how radar propagates through water, how all that sound passes through. That's something that's very relevant for us. But some other things to pay attention for just how the ocean affects the weather is like we've got to be on top of our El Nino and La Nina oscillations, because that affects a lot on the other half of America, and that will come over here with like Alberta Clippers and all that. But just monitoring also how something like the Gulf Stream, how that's flowing, because if if we get a random system that pops up over the Gulf Stream and it's like perfectly in the right place at the right time, then you just kind of have a blown up system right in the middle of the
Or
Atlantic.
you get one of those warm eddies down there. Where
Yeah,
it sits in there,
yeah. Those are things that we always gotta kind of be mindful of. Not so much at our command, but just for our rate in general,
Yeah.
that's something that we are pretty knowledgeable about.
Go ahead, Tim.
All right, so you guys are here in Charlotte for Navy Week. It's the first time being in Charlotte actually for Navy Week in quite a while, as I understand. What should the public know about what's going on? What kind of events are there, and what are you excited about?
So there are quite a few events kind of going on throughout the week. Some of the big things, you've got the Truce Championship. There's a Navy Day that we're actually having at the Discovery Place Museum.
Oh, yeah.
But there's also going to be a lot of small events kind of throughout all around the city, like as the week goes on. The big thing for anyone that actually wants to like learn more about it or see what events we have, see what's coming up, is they can actually reach out to Navy Outreach. So the website for that actually is outreach.navy.mil. So anyone can go there and they can learn more about what's going on the next week.
That's great. Yeah, what a great week. So many things going on. I'll be out the Truist. That's always going to be a great event. We're almost out of time, but I have one question, and this is something only another meteorologist can understand. Do your superiors or your friends ask you about the forecast constantly?
Yes.
Do they ask for like personal forecasts when you're on
Yes.
duty?
Yeah, I'm always asking these guys, hey, did you look at the weather for the weekend yet?
Yeah.
What's the weather going to be?
Yeah.
Especially with all the tornadoes coming through the
Yeah.
Midwest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Honestly, what is like the toughest thing you guys like? Because here we have cold air damming in the Carolinas is like our biggest frustration. What is one of the biggest like hardest things for you guys to forecast real quickly that you just hate dealing with?
I would say
Hatteras lows.
that or just snow in general for
Yeah.
the Southeast Virginia area.
Oh yeah.
Because you got bay effect snow going
Yeah.
on the Chesapeake Bay, and a lot of people say you want the 540 line to come below,
Yeah.
but down there in that area, you actually want the 528
Yeah.
to get south enough.
Yeah.
If you see that and you have moisture in the area and with a good system moving through, you probably know you got snow. So I would say that's probably the hardest.
For me, I'd probably say a lot of the stuff going over in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
You have so many different like terrain levels over there that
Sure.
you'll have wind coming through this way, and this causes this wind regime, and that's gonna kick off this wind regime, and then just like all the different channels, all the different mountains, just makes
Yeah.
the Mediterranean kind of hectic at times. The models do a good job of kind of representing it, but it's not always the best.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. We really appreciate it. We're out of time. We could probably talk all day about this, but
Yeah.
thank you guys so much. Have a great week in Charlotte. I think it's going to be amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for everybody tuning in tonight, and we'll be back here in about 2 minutes with more news on WCNC Charlotte.